Your job as a leader is to gradually build up the capabilities of your potential leaders so that they can take on more of the team's workload. And that means that you have to delegate, because you can't do all the work by yourself. Delegation is important, even if it means that the team members that you delegate to may not produce the same quality of results as you would, at least at the beginning. Now, there's also work that you can do, and there's work that you should do. If it's work that can be turned into a process that your team can manage, then by all means, do that and delegate the work to your team. Delegate with clear expectations in terms of the results that's required, and give them the opportunity to take on leadership roles in those delegated responsibilities. This shows that you trust them, and you're also giving them a platform for them to be leaders. Now, if time is truly a constraint for you, however, you have access to financial resources, consider outsourcing part of the leadership development of your potential leaders. Naturally, you still want to be involved in that development journey so that your potential leaders are developing their leadership in a manner that's relevant to the team and to the organization. I mentioned that if you have financial resources, you can consider outsourcing some of the leadership development of your potential leaders to external trainings, workshops, and even external coaching. You may also want to consider partnering with charity organizations and getting your potential leaders involved with them, because the outcomes required by charitable organizations in the non-profit sector, the skill sets needed are often very similar to that in the profit-driven private enterprises. In using the work that you do, you can also look for opportunities to assign them projects and opportunities that will stretch their capabilities and to help improve their leadership. By giving them new responsibilities, you can see how they're handling them and then supporting them to improve. I'll add that with point 7, regardless of whether you choose to outsource part of the leadership development or that you are involving other organizations to develop your potential leaders, you still need to be involved. You need to be there to support your potential leaders, to give them feedback so that they can continue to develop their leadership in a right manner that makes sense for your team and for your organization. If you like the content that you see so far, make sure you hit a like, subscribe, and leave a comment in this video. It helps me to grow the channel. Thanks. Let's summarize the 7 ways so that you have a cohesive strategy to develop your potential leaders even when you're constrained by work. 1. It is your job to prioritize the development of your potential leaders. And often it comes down to delegation, time management, and priority. The more leaders you have in your team, the more of the team's workload they can take on. Once you have accepted that developing potential leaders is a priority for you, then you need to work around this whole idea of being time constrained. Some of the methods that I've shared include scheduling time, tracking your time usage, delegating work to free up time, being selective as to where you're using your time, and creating coachable moments. 3. Very often though, because you are working with your team and the potential leaders within, you are the best example for what leadership is like. 4. That means you should consider letting your potential leaders shadow you in the work that you do so that they can see firsthand leadership in action. Assign them opportunities with an emphasis on leadership and support them in their journey. 5. Rather than set aside chunks of time to develop your potential leaders, consider creating coachable moments of under 5 minutes to impart a specific and relevant leadership lesson at the moment. Delegation has to be part of your strategy when it comes to developing potential leaders. It could be getting your potential leaders to shadow you in the work that you do, giving them work opportunities, or even outsourcing some of that development work to external workshops, trainings, and coaches. 7. While there are a few methods here when it comes to developing your potential leaders, such as getting them to shadow you, assigning them work opportunities, or even outsourcing some of the development work to external workshops and coaches, in the end of the day, you still need to be involved in their development journey so that they're developing their leadership according to what makes sense for the team and for the organization. I've realized that there are 2 considerations that you need to keep in mind. 1. As a leader of your own team, how much knowledge of leadership do you have? And how are you able to impart that knowledge to your potential leaders? One of the biggest challenges that I've come across in interviewing over 200 leaders from around the world is that every single person has their own interpretation of what leadership is. Now, this is not surprising because everyone has their own personality, strengths, personal values, as well as life experiences, which means that we will tend to view leadership based on those parameters. Some of you viewing this video right now may have a more authoritative view on leadership, and others may have a more participative view on leadership. Some may prefer to take a more intuitive approach, while others prefer a more structured approach. And there may be some of you who are very much task-focused, while there are others who are more people-focused. There's just no one definition of leadership, because leadership has to make sense for the individual. So even if you are very clear on your own interpretation and definition of leadership, there's still a limitation in terms of the amount of knowledge that you can share with your potential leaders, and also how you are explaining it. And that's why it's important to involve your potential leaders with other perspectives, such as working with charitable organizations or working with leadership coaches, because then your potential leaders are getting multiple perspectives on leadership, which will ultimately be beneficial to their leadership development. Number two, the second consideration is the willingness of your potential leaders to go on that leadership journey. I remember when I was researching to write my book, I had started out with almost no understanding of leadership. It took me about 60 to 70 hours of one-on-one conversations with experienced leaders, self-reflection, and writing my book to finally achieve that breakthrough in understanding what leadership is. And so I have a view that you can't really teach leadership. However, leadership can be learned, which means that one of the things that you need to look out for is the willingness of your team members to want to learn leadership. And when you see that willingness, that is a sign that leadership can be developed within the person. So you might have seen me flash a couple of leadership traits throughout this video. These leadership traits are part of the 30 leadership traits that I've identified from my research. And those traits can be found in my first-time leadership book, which shares insights from leaders from all around the world. If you want to find out more, there's a link in the description below. Also, if you're interested in getting fast results in your leadership journey, consider one-on-one coaching with me. There's a link in the description below on how you can get started. So that's pretty much it. I hope that the 7 steps shared here in this video will help you develop your potential leaders within your own team, even when you are constrained by work. I'm Daniel Lee from First Time Leadership. I look forward to speaking with you soon.